Today I have a very good friend of mine, Mehfuz Hossain. We've known each other for a long time. We've worked on a number of different chatbot projects together, and then we're also building modules and solutions for you guys, really. So today we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about where the space is, where it's going, and some of our insights along the way. So Mehfuz, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I'm an entrepreneur. So I like everyone else. So I did a couple of startups previously. My last startup was small startup, was exited for 262 million, and then I decided to do something with bots, and here we are.
Great, great. So tell me a little bit about SmartLoop, and then also tell me about the feedback loop. So for the audience that doesn't know about SmartLoop, and also for everyone else.
Yeah, so what we do is basically, we're a chatbot platform like anyone else, but the difference that we work with brands like Coke and Louis Vuitton or Warner Parks or this things that we're doing AOL, we basically automate the conversation by gathering your insights. And based on those insights, we try to improve the conversation over time and suggest them certain ways that they can increase their ROI down the road. So in a sense, we help brands make more money.
Okay, so in essence, it's kind of like taking insights and then automatically creating a positive feedback loop.
Exactly.
And does the bot automatically improve itself, or how does that work?
So whenever the bot is having this conversation, you're having a conversation with the bot. The bot knows what type of conversation you're having with it, like what checkpoints it hit to, what other insights, what other missed conversations are. And based on that, down the road, you can actually improve the conversation. You can suggest people, you can suggest the business that what you really need to improve, engage with your customers even more. For example, you run a polo, a shop for polo, and you have a customer named John, and let's say who buys polo only during the Christmas, right?
Okay.
And so based on the behavior, based on the engagement with your bot, you will able to send them a message or broadcast and tell them that, hey John, there is a discount. There's a Christmas time coming. You're supposed to buy a polo right now.
I see.
So those kind of things. So this is very important for a bot space because most of the bots initially when the space started, we see that the bot conversations are more like input and output. The machine learning is not about writing the same conversation in 10 different ways, but is more towards how machine learning predicts the outcome for you, and that is where the bot space is overall going.
Got it. So in other words, it's basically looking at the behavior of the user, creating a model, comparing it to other users like that user, and then creating a prediction. So in your example, John would, we see John's behavior. We say, hey, John's like Bob, and Bob likes to buy stuff on Christmas during sale because that's the type of customer he is. That's this persona, user persona. And so then you would suggest to the bot owner, hey, send John a message on December 24th or December 15th or whatever the exact is.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so before we go into that more, what is your 30,000-foot view on bots and how the space as a whole is evolving and how it's changing over time?
So when we started the bot space, it was like experimental, and now from an experimental, it's nearing to a product market fit with ROI. So right now, what we see, most businesses are mostly interested in bots. And we've seen things like weather bots, and those bots are slowly going down, but more business use cases are coming up and up. The reason why, for example, one good example that we're working with Coca-Cola, and Coca-Cola wanted to launch a new product called Coke Zero, and they have a Facebook page, and they had around 3 million subscribers in their Facebook page, and they decided to do, hey, we're going to launch Coca-Cola. Using a chatbot. So when they did that, they saw that people really, the demographic, the millennial demographic, which is a large number right now. So the millennial demographic, they just really jumped into it. They just easily answered some questions, got a coupon, went to a kiosk, get a Coke Zero. And what it meant for Coca-Cola, that it gave them the kind of an insight they're looking for, like what are the demographics, what is the English versus other German speaker are eating sugar water, or what are the demographic, what are the things, and this is actually giving them more or less a gauge to whether or not they should launch a product or not. It gives them
And where?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
What were some of the numbers from that campaign?
So almost 70% people, they actually went through the questions and they actually claimed the coupon. And most of them were millennials, like 18 to 36 kind of a range. And this actually gave Coca-Cola an insight and whether or not they should run this campaign in this particular region or not, or they should go elsewhere.
I see.
So
that's amazing. When you think about bots, what do you think is what's the best way to think about them? If we're trying to wrap your head around it, if you're new to it, or even if you're like a seasoned veteran, what do you think are some of the best mental frameworks for bots?
I think the best mental framework for bots is the bots are good for 3 different use cases: marketing, customer service, and back office.
Okay.
Those are the 3 things. No matter what you say, these are the 3 things.
Yeah, these are the top 3 use cases.
Yeah.
When it comes to chatbots, the way I like to think about them is essentially what they really are is a communication channel at the end of the day. And they're a very powerful communication channel, not just demographically, as more and more millennials are using messaging platforms, but also because unlike email, they're smarter. So sometimes I like to tell people, like, imagine if email was smart, if it could automatically respond to your questions, and if it could take action on your behalf. So for example, if Mehfuz and I were trying to create an appointment with each other using email, we would have to go back and forth a bunch of times. But with a bot, it could do it in just one swoop. It would automatically know when my schedule is available. You push one button, and boom, it sends it right to your Google Calendar, and then you get reminded of it. So, by automating certain things, bots are just kind of like email on steroids, a smart version of email on steroids, which I think very naturally leads into these use cases like marketing, customer service, et cetera, because that's where you get most of your emails anyway, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about the marketing use case?
So one of the marketing use case could be, Nitro Cafe, for example.
Okay.
They increased their sales by 20%, almost like 20% by using a chatbot. Or things like Sephora, for example.
Yeah.
So they increased their the booking appointments through chatbots like over 40%. So those are very compelling numbers to most of for the most part.
Right.
And which was not possible with an email, because in the email is more towards in a generalized email where there is no engagement, there is no way to. It's sitting there for me to open the email for you.
So I think you bring up an excellent point. At the end of the day, like the open rates and the click-through rates on bots are much higher.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing like open rates as high as 75, 80%, especially if you know what to send to the users. And the click-through rates are anywhere from 28 to 50%. Now, if you compare that to like traditional email marketing, I think if you're really, really good, you're going to be like 25% open rate. And you're going to have, if you're really, really good, you have a 15% click-through rate. At the end of the day, what it means is like more people will be able to read your message and do something about it. Yeah. So I think that's one reason why for bots for marketing just makes so much sense. So let's talk about customer service.
So for customer service, it's like the holy grail of AI has always been like how you automate things for me. And bot is an excellent vehicle for tier 1 support. So for example, the example is like Globe Telecom, for example. Okay. They increased the volume, they decreased cost, and they increased the sale by like 70%. And for example, their employees were like 300% more productive. just by adding chatbots into the space. The reason why is that humans are good for doing complex stuff, and bots are good for doing the same old thing over and over again. So as you're a small company and you're growing, the number actually grows, the cost actually grows, and the bot actually comes as an excellent solution in that case, that it will go through the tier 1 support, and it will only involve you if there is a complex solution you need to solve, right?
Right.
So that has always been, for the last 20 years, the main thing for AI, and that someday is going to take over it. So basically, AI is making the whole thing more smarter, making us more productive.
Yeah, and I really love that example because basically the customer service solution really won in 3 different areas. It won with customer satisfaction. I think that increased it by 22%. It won with employee productivity, where it like more than tripled it. And that's because people could like focus on the harder things that's more fun for them, so they're happier as well. And then it was an all-around win. And my favorite use case that you brought up, back end, it's the one that no one ever talks about, but I think is going to be the biggest. And I think really it's going to drive adoption in the future. And that is like back-end bots, or you can call them back office, or you can call them B2E. And that's where employees, for the most part, are engaging with a bot instead of outdated enterprise software. And you probably noticed that, especially if you're a millennial, last thing you want to do is sign into another app and ask to look at your W-2, for example, or to request sick time or something like that, right? Companies are finding out it's a lot more efficient to just create a chat layer on top of that.
Yeah, exactly.
So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so back office could be a good example. Like the one good example it comes to my mind all the time is Coined by Chase, right? So the bot is nothing but is just reviewing a legal document and is proofreading it for you. And they're Chase, by only doing that, they're saving 300,000 hours, legal hours, every year. And that's a very good use case of how bots can really improve the back office flow, how it can really make your HR, or another example could be Maya.
Yeah.
So Maya is a recruiting platform. They're using AI and chatbots to do that, and they kind of increase over 70% just by adding bots into the process. So employees there are more free times, and we don't have to go through every single resume that I don't want to go through.
Right.
So.
And it also it makes the whole process a lot more efficient, especially for HR and recruiting, for enterprise bots, because especially if you're a really big company, you're receiving like thousands of applications, right? And some of the people that are applying could qualify for multiple different jobs, but they might not know that you're hiring for all these multiple different jobs that they might be qualifying for. So in this use case, when a person, prospective employee, comes in, gives the bot information, now the bot can make an evaluation. They could say, yeah, we know you're applying for role A. I found a better candidate for role A, but hey, you fit role B really, really well. And that's not something you would normally ever be able to do on scale unless you have a lot, technology like this. Also, I think the U.S. military started using bots to answer recruiter questions.
Yeah, and this gets better over time. Because the AI is learning about you. You're getting all the insights data, and eventually you can say that A versus B is always better, right? In certain ways. So yeah.
So I think for backend, like the main use cases are like HR, obviously. Anything that could be automated, like the coin bot, for example. I was talking to the VP of Marriott, and he told me that they're increasing internal bots by 85% monthly. That is, they're finding little things that bots could do, like password recovery, like onboarding employees to a workflow, for example. They're finding it so efficient, they're just increasing bots internally by that amount every single month. So
in terms of like the password recovery, so we were working with Albuquerque government recently, and they exactly needed a chatbot just to recover passwords because they were getting so in the US, for example, the government organizations are understaffed for the most part. They have millions of requests, and they have so little people. So if you go to DMV, let's say you waste almost a day. there. So, for example, when the Albuquerque government, they started this only the reset password through a bot that actually increased almost like 60% of their customer service just go away. It was just phenomenal how bot can help things in this direction.
So one of the things that I like to think about is automatic solutions, plug and play solutions, and as the space evolves, I think you see it across the board, right? 20 years ago, you didn't have platforms like Shopify or BigCommerce, et cetera. But they've come up and they make, let's say, if you want to own an e-commerce store, much easier than it would have been 20, 30 years ago. So are you seeing the same sort of trend of like plug and play solutions within the bot space, and how does that work?
Yeah, so bots, if you think about the technology evolution in 30 years, and we see that things are really difficult to build initially. So bots today are somewhat difficult to build, there are not much of a flow and those kind of things, but as the industry evolves, there are platforms, there are design tools, there are analytics tools. These are actually making the process simpler and simpler. And as we build these use cases, build this HR bot, build this all Coca-Cola marketing, all the solutions, we're getting to see more of these solutions as a template, so that people can, based on their solutions, based on their problem domain, they can just easily plug and play this bot into their existing enterprise solutions.
I see that. That's very interesting. And I like to think of these solutions in like two different ways. One is you're going to have like vertical solutions that, for example, marketing or customer service or backend, that once you do enough of them, you kind of know what works and what best practices are. Email marketing is a good example. In the beginning, we didn't know how to do it. Now we know how to do it very well, and you can go online and Google and get templates, right? We're getting to the same point with, let's say, marketing bots. We know what the best practices are. Customer service bots, we're starting to find out what the best practices are. Backend bots, we're starting to find out what the best practices are. So one of the plug-and-play solutions that's starting to happen is that companies like SmartLoop are starting to make those solutions available to companies on a vertical basis. The other way to think about it is horizontally. So no matter what bot you have or you play with, there's going to have certain characteristics that are going to be pretty much put it in any solution, any bot, and it'll learn an enormous amount of information about your bot, because in life, that's how we learn about each other. We talk. And then from that information, you can create the
You can drive insight, and it can actually grow the ROI for you. So, for example, if you're a marketeer, and after a few months of we're working with some of the marketeers, for example, some of the brands like Louis Vuitton, for example, they wanted to work with us. They wanted to see. They are not sure about what to build, how to build, and so we work with them and give them a solution. Hey, start work with this one. So they work for a month or two, and based on month or two, they got a lot of insightful data, like who are actually interested in this bag versus the other bag, and this kind of things. And based on that, they improve their templates. And based on that, we suggest them that the AI automatically suggests them that what they should do in order to attract those customers through the bot more. So this actually gives out a more valuable information for businesses to monetize on top of bots, actually. And this is not available. This is not possible anyway with any other tools we had so far.
I see. So can you tell me a little bit more about what you're working on, some of the tools?
Yeah, so we are working mostly with businesses. That's kind of a shameless plug. So
we're working. Plug time.
Yeah, same as shameless plug time. So we're working most of the businesses, like most of the big brands. So what we do is we generally call this ROI guarantee program. Okay. So we work with businesses, and we give them a starting point. We understand that problem domain. We give them a solution and starting point, and within 1 or 2 months, we gather the data. We build a feedback loop, and based on that, we tell them that how you can grow your bot to the next level, how it can be more effective for you in generating ROI.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. So if you guys want a free solution, talk to Mehfuz.
Yes.
It's not free, you have to pay for it, but he guarantees you get your money back. Awesome. So we'll start opening questions to the audience. Does anybody have a question?
Of course, the guy who's in the back. That's fine. No, that's all right. We talked at lunch. We're cool. Here you go, bud.
Thanks. I'd love for you guys to expand on this, I don't know what it's called, technological trend of personality, right?
Okay.
And what method solutions companies do you see in the space that you think are particularly interesting or relevant on kind of horizontal personality as a service, or however you want to call it?
I think it's such a new space that, and you can, I think Pandora Bots does a great job. A lot of people build personality bots on there using AI ML.
Yeah.
So that's good. What are some other ones that you like?
So the personality module is whenever I think about personality module, the first thing comes to my mind is Alice, right?
Okay.
and the thing is that so the personality module as an Alice versus the businesses are, since the space is new, it's still not been there. For example, if you're buying insurance from Geico and you say, hey, how's the weather in San Francisco? So the bot might reply to you that, hey, the weather is awesome. How about you save 15% on car insurance by buying Geico? So based on your portfolio, based on your interests, the personality module drives you to a different pathway. So that should be how personality module will be in future as we
hold on a
go
second.
ahead.
I think we have a question from our virtual friend.
Oh, all right. Where is it?
You have to turn on the audio.
Virtual friend? I'm scared.
I am here. What would you like?
I like chatbots.
Yeah. So we can ask some more questions to the audience.
I see the look in your eyes. Yeah, you got a question? Oh, okay, I was just checking. Any other questions? Questions on personality as a service, which I like, by the way. I think that's a good one. All right, here you go.
Hi, my question is more centered around the enterprise space. So you were talking about B2E bots and this vision of these very, I would say, subject matter expert bots that would proliferate. So how do you address the problem or the employee experience problem where now as an employee I have to remember password bot, IT bot, HR bot, payment bot, all that stuff, right?
I love your question because ultimately at the end of the day you're not going to remember all those. The same way you don't remember the 100 apps on your phone. I know I download at least 100 and I don't remember 95 of them because I only use 5. And I think at the end of the day, what's going to happen is the same thing that's happened in every other vertical is going to happen in bots. And you're going to have 1, 2, maybe 3 personality bots that are going to connect to all the other bots. And so, for example, you forgot your password, like your main bot that you talk to, you're going to say, hey, I forgot my password, and she's going to go and she's going to pull the password bot. You could say, I'm sick, and then she's going to go pull the HR bot, and so on. I think that's going to end up being the solution is, like Google's the door to the internet, you're going to have a personal system bot that's the door to other bots.
Yeah, and one of the things could be that eventually we'll build, the modules will improve. So you'll just connect the modules instead of going through password bot, this bot, that bot. That's like with the iPhone. The problem with iPhone right now that there are so many apps. What app I should download right now? So so bots has a different vertical and different interface that where one interface can serve all the modules all together for you based on your needs using an AI. So it makes much more intuitive down the road.
Does anybody have any more questions?
Do I have more questions? So what are you going to call the bot that calls is it the bot that builds the bot? When will bots build bots? That's what I mean.
That's an interesting question.
Mehfuz, you can take that one. So Mehfuz is, his background's machine learning, AI. You could probably tell.
I'm
very
dropped out
techy.
of machine learning, by the way.
So what's your thoughts on that?
Bots building bots. I think unless we're building a Skynet, right? The bots building bots. So I think it will be more towards modules will become more smarter, and the modules will combine together based on a business need. We'll combine different modules for a company, and we will organize them to build the exact bot for you easily without you have to go through every single scenarios more or less all together. Because if you think about insurance bot, almost 90% of the insurance bot are the same. So it's just about building those core modules is the key.
That's right. Any more questions? Okay, we have one more over here.
Thanks. I love the idea of bots communicating to bots.
Yeah,
And
me too.
what is your vision on this? Do you think that it will be something like a common API or maybe a natural language communicating or some common standard for interbot communication?
That's
Yeah.
a great question.
Yeah, so we'll both answer it. So right now there are no bot standards really. Standardization is starting to happen.
Exactly.
And as that's starting to happen, and you can kind of see it here, like for example, .bot is here. That's one of their main goals, is to create a space where everyone that's creating a bot can come in there, have a conversation, and start to talk about some of those protocols that will allow bot to happen.
And also, as we have more platforms and more people decentralized right now, I think that eventually what will happen, there will be a common standard where people will be able to use that format to do any kind of bots in whichever they want to go, right? So right now there are no common standard between any data formatting, any machine learning. Everyone is building their own proprietary stuff. So eventually, as the industry evolves, as we see for HTMLs or any other technology, there has to be a standard. Otherwise, it will be a jungle of things, and I cannot get anything out of it. So,
Great. Any last questions?
yeah. I have a question.
We need to, I'm gonna make a question bot. That's what I'm gonna make. Yes, you have a question.
Yeah, what's your question, Mehfuz? Do you have a question for the audience?
I have a question for Alexa.
What's your question?
Oh, okay. Here, ask it, and as a backup, I'll just step outside.
What do you think about bots?
How can you ask me something about myself? I would ask you the same.